On the podcast this time out, I am speaking to the fantastic Joe Goodall, singer-songwriter from the Stirling area, due to release his next single, Sucker Punch, which is out this Friday, March the 28th. Joe was a fantastic guest with lots to say all about his career, and it was just a really, really great interview. Total joy to speak to him. I'm not going to tell much of the episode because the episode speaks for itself. Nearly an hour and a half of chat with Joe. We gave up a lot of his time, and as I say, it was truly fantastic to speak to him. So I just dive in. I hope you're all enjoying the podcast. Obviously keep liking, commenting, sharing and subscribing. But more importantly, enjoy. Here's Joe Goodall. Our life untouched, so we both joke this will come if you stay. On the podcast this time out, I've got Joe Goodall, who is I want to say singer-songwriter, but you've got the full band in about you, haven't you? So,
rock pop.
Joe Goodall, Scottish singer-songwriter type thing. He's got a new single coming out in April the 25th, I think.
It's March 28th. I think it changed. I think Aidan gave you the wrong date, but it's March 28th. Yeah.
March 28th. Even better, less time to wait. So we're going to talk about that, but we're going to talk about your career and how you got to this point. So what I like to do at the start is go right back to the start. What was life like for a young Joe growing up?
I mean, it was. I've got a really supportive family. I'm very lucky in that regard. I didn't grow up in a family with lots of money or any particular privilege or anything like that, unlike a lot of artists that tend to do well these days. However, I did grow up in a really supportive family, and I think I was very lucky to have parents that kind of understood that music was a passion of mine from the get-go. That I was just picking up instruments left, right, and center and making noise. It wasn't good noise, but I was making noise, and I think they recognized. I mean, my dad's musical. Well, my mum and dad are both musical, but my dad's always been in bands. Uh, so like I kind of grew up on like 60s, 70s rock, particularly with my dad. And so that, I mean, initially fell in love with the likes of like, AC/DC and well, The Who, Pink Floyd, all that kind of stuff. That was how I started out, and then gradually ended up being a bit more kind of current, like focusing on more current music. But because of my dad's interest in that style of music, that just like instilled that kind of stuff within me from the get-go. So it was always music. It was music centric growing up. And as I said, just very lucky to have a really supportive family because that's kind of carried through into everything I do now. I can't tell you how important it is to have that support behind you, particularly from family, because these are the people you want to impress most and kind of prove that to them that it was right to trust in everything I'm doing. So I think very lucky in that regard. I grew up in the middle of nowhere, the only place in the middle of nowhere that there really is in Central Belt. And I guess I didn't really because I grew up in the middle of nowhere. I didn't live in like an estate with lots of people around, lots of mates. It was literally just out in the sticks, and all I really had to do was kind of mess around and make music. I think that's probably how I've ended up here, to be honest.
Uh, do you think that's how you started out solo then? Just because you didn't have anybody else to kind of bounce off?
Yeah, massively, 100%. I mean, I because of the bands I grew up with, I always wanted to be in a band. Um, and so I mean, when it got to it was sixth year was when I kind of formed my first band. But it was all my own music. I was writing because that was as every songwriter would tell you, it's an outlet. It's a way of kind of venting. It's a way of kind of getting the emotions that you don't really know what else to do without.
Hmm.
And so I was writing from a very, very young age. Most of it was pretty crap, but and gradually, as I started to become a bit more confident with what I was writing, I it was sixth year. I spoke to some guys that were in a couple of years below me, but some really talented musicians, and I formed a band with them. And immediately, as soon as I had that kind of bigger sound, the space to perform with other people, rehearse with other people, perform with other people, build a show with other people. It was all my own music, but we were turning it into a much bigger production, and that kind of excited me like massively, and
Mm.
that kind of inspired that drive to really take it places. And things have changed since then. Got new band and the kind of operations of it all is very different now. But I do think that, like you said, growing up, like but up until the point of being in sixth year of secondary school, I just didn't have the facilities. I didn't know anyone else to kind of perform with, and so yeah, I guess that period of time was probably quite important for me to discover songwriting and foster a love for songwriting. Yeah.
So, like early on, then, what were your writing techniques? How were you kind of coming about that sort of stuff?
Uh, I mean, it's tough to say because I mean, I was literally like writing bits of music for. I remember I went out with my bongo on Halloween. For when guys are trick or treating with us, and I would go out and I wrote this song about Halloween. I still think it's an absolute bop now. I mean, thinking back, it was crazy, but I was like coming up with like rhymes and lyrical rhymes and kind of and like funky beats and things from quite a young age. But then I think it was when I got into like first year of high school was when I remember like sitting down with a feeling that I wanted to write a song about something in particular. And I wrote a song about just kind of struggling with anxiety, which in itself is a bizarre thing for kind of someone of that age to kind of have the inspiration to do. Uh, and I didn't know how to play guitar, but I just knew the most basic chords. My dad had either taught me or, kind of just fiddled around with the fretboard to get to the point where something sounded nice. And it was just a case of, I think, like a lot of artists, when you start playing something that evokes a certain feeling and emotion, like the words start spilling out of you and the lyrics kind of write themselves a little bit. That's not the case all the time, of course. Sometimes it's more forced, but at least at the first while, it was all very natural. Things were just kind of falling out of me because I was playing an instrument I'd never played before, and I was making nice sounds. Yeah, so the style, or no, sorry, my processes of writing have definitely changed a lot. I guess I've consolidated more, like they're more structured now. Whereas back then it was kind of just, no one had ever said this is how you write a song, and don't think anyone should ever tell anyone how you write a song. But
Hmm.
um, I kind of was, I guess, just figuring things out for myself, like anyone would. But it was a little bit more erratic then, and it's probably a bit more processed now.
And like going to kind of present day, then what's your writing like now? Do you still, is it on your own, or do you kind of bounce off others now?
I mean, a bit of both, to be honest. I really love writing sessions. I really love getting in the studio with, well, whether that be with a producer that's basically there to sit with me whilst I write the vocal melodies and the guitar melodies and things, and then the lyrics, and then they kind of like track everything and then make it sound bigger and add in all the bits and pieces that you maybe wouldn't initially think about when you're just sat with a guitar writing a song. That stuff's all super fun, and that's a lot more kind of structured and processed. On the flip side, I also love sitting by myself. Also, to go back to that previous point, obviously as well, you can have other songwriters in there with you, and I find that really fun as well because that's a nice way of kind of mixing styles. I don't know if you ever heard of Fatherson. They're a Scottish kind of
Yeah,
rock
yeah.
band. So I wrote with Ross from Fatherson a while back, and that was so exciting because he's just a really, really talented songwriter. I love his music. An unbelievable vocalist, unbelievable musician overall, but just his songwriting is, something to admire. And so that was really exciting doing that. Um, but yeah, when I'm writing by myself, I guess it's a little bit more like, again, I've got a melody on an instrument, maybe a melody in my head as well, and when I write best when I get start feeling uh the music kind of. It's so hard to not say this in that pretentious sounding way because it all does sound really pretentious when you're talking about this stuff, but I don't ever feel that is connected to a piece of music that I've written if it hasn't been done in the style where I've sat playing something and it evokes a feeling and I've gone, right, I already want to write about this certain thing and this is really making me want to write about it even more.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, as I said, it's tricky stuff to write to talk about because I think even when you're a musician and listen to other songwriters talk about how they write songs, sometimes you can be a bit like, oh, it's cringe. But at the same time, it's just the way of it. That is how the best songs are made is when the writer really is pouring their heart out, you know?
Yeah,
I think in my opinion anyway.
totally. And obviously, you said you were out there in the middle of nowhere.
Mm.
So where is the middle of nowhere? In
So I grew up, well, my family still lived there. I always lived in the one house. I now live in Edinburgh, but my family are still back in Stirling, which isn't in the middle of nowhere, but it's like the outskirts of Stirling, right
hmm.
out in the middle of nowhere. Realistically, it doesn't take that long to get to Stirling from where we live, but it was kind of just, especially when I was really young, it was that kind of Goldilocks zone of like, it was perfectly peaceful and like out in the fields, out in the countryside, but there was all the room to make as much noise as you needed to make. And then it was close enough to the center that I still kind of could go to like school and make friends there. But it was a funny one. As I said back at the beginning, like I didn't have a great social life when I was really young. Um, and that definitely, I found that tricky, and I think that definitely contributed to a lot of the anxieties that I still have,
Hmm.
and I still at times struggle with. But it's also probably developed my artistic character a little bit as well, um, and gave me a lot more time to kind of think about things, which isn't there's positives and negatives, but there is with everything.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, like you spoke off mic about kind of all the guests I've had on, and the amount of guests,
Mm.
obviously musicians that they struggle with anxiety and other kind of issues with the like mental health and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So it's obviously music's the outlet to kind of
yeah,
the sort of therapy for that. So is that what you found that the music helps you?
yeah. I mean, right at the beginning, it was probably the most therapeutic, like right when I started kind of writing songs. That's all it was ever about. Before I started growing up and like and themes of like love and all that kind of stuff took over. Before kind of being a bit more, I don't really know what the word would be like. Um, just I get maturing, but also kind of writing more about pop culture, like all
Hmm.
that stuff developed. But when I was younger, it was more just about myself, and it was just for me. I was writing purely just for myself. It wasn't with any intention of ever releasing anything. It wasn't to put it out anywhere. It wasn't for anyone else to listen to. It was just for me. And yeah, I guess that then it was more personal, and it was just ways of like, when you're going through breakups or going through loss and going through grief, people always recommend just writing it out.
Hmm.
I think that's quite a common technique. I think that's pretty much what songwriting was to me at the beginning, was just writing out my thoughts, but also getting to th because you're thinking about making like rhymes and making lyrics fit with the melody and things. There's also a bit more thought to it as well. So it was really dwelling on these tricky thought issues that were going through my head. Um, so it definitely was an outlet, and it still is now. I mean, a lot of songs I write now are more, or at least in recent times, have been more themed around, your typical, love and heartbreak and things like that. But there's always kind of always time to put like my struggles with anxiety and just general like depression and mental health issues are always gonna find their way into music, I think, because that's
Yeah.
just like that's when you sat by yourself writing a song, you're really exposed to your thoughts, I think, more so than ever.
Yeah, and it is very common. I mean, like Louis Dunford, he's just brought out his debut album.
Yeah,
Obviously, that's completely tinged with anxiety, mental health, loss, all that stuff.
yeah,
And I've heard him speaking. I'm trying to get him on the podcast.
that'd be
But I have
amazing.
heard him speaking, and he's very vocal about all his struggles, which is it, it's probably one of the bravest things you can do. Um,
Hmm.
Probably one of the other bravest things when you're struggling with anxiety is getting up on a stage in front of these people. So how does that sort of transcend?
Um, I think it's funny because it, I mean, with me, it honestly fluctuates so much. It's really difficult to know. I mean, I've not performed now in a wee while. We were super busy last year, and then I've taken these last few months to kind of write a lot and get singles ready and prep to kind of kick everything off again and try and get some live shows booked and some cool gigs. So I've had this period of, pardon me, some time to away from performing. So I think it's going to be quite nerve-wracking getting back to it again, just for the first couple. But I
Mhm.
always like the performance was like one of the things I just loved the most because it's translating everything if the way I like to perform and it's try and create as much of like a show and experience as possible because those are the bands that I grew up with that did more than just get on the stage and play the songs live, but they performed the songs live and they built a show around it. So like I find all that stuff so exciting that that kind of consumes my headspace, and so the majority of the stresses are about making sure that a show runs the way it should go and that the tech that we're using runs the way it should. So that's where the majority of my anxieties are now. It's not so much about performing in front of people because I've worked my way up. I've performed in front of, hundreds and then probably, yeah, well, yeah, there's been a couple shows I've done now where I played in front of a couple thousand people. And um, when you get to that stage, you've kind of played in front of like the max. So
Yeah.
it's not the number of people that makes you nervous anymore. It's the occasion. So
Hmm.
what's important about this gig, or is it being televised? Is it being recorded? Is a massive A&R agent here? Are there any managers here? Am I performing in front of bands that I am into that I love? So I think it just changes with the occasion. But certainly like growing up, I mean the best kind of example of progress from my own kind of journey in my own head is thinking about how nervous I was for the first gigs in front of five people at a pub. Like shit. I mean, I don't know if I can swear on this, but like
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like
yeah.
just like shit myself for those gigs. The build up, thinking writing a set list, and I was really young, but and no wonder I was nervous. But now you think. I was pretty much playing to my parents and a few strangers down at the pub, and then jump forward to like the likes of Edgefest and like playing before like the likes of McFly and stuff, or even just YPI. We played 1,600 people at the Perth Concert Hall. I was nervous for those gigs. Of course, I was nervous, but because I'd already played gigs to lots of people, again, it's just another show in front of lots of people, and it becomes more of an exciting thing and more of an enjoyable thing to look forward to
Hmm.
than something to be scared of. So I think, like I said, just there, I think it's probably more about the occasion that makes me nervous. But I've learned to deal with it. But that's not to say that after having a little break, I'm not going to be, like shit myself for the next, for like the 5 minutes before going on stage or whatever. But
Yeah,
it'll be
totally
fine.
understandable.
Yeah,
So, like, onto the music. So, first kind of releases came out 2021.
yeah,
The late 2021, September, you brought out your debut song 11, and then that was followed up a couple of months later with Where the River Meets the Sea.
yeah.
Um, so, I'm trying to work out lockdown times and all that, but it would have been around about lockdown.
Yeah,
It
well
was
and truly.
recorded and stuff and released. So how was lockdown for you first?
Uh, uh, so lockdown, we'll talk about lockdown, how lockdown was, and then we can talk about this tracks as well. Like lockdown was, I mean, I was in a really, like so many other people, in this really weird period of time in secondary school where exams were meant to be happening and they were getting cancelled. I'd done prelims, and for a very short space of time, SQA like massively royally fucked up and like gave people results based on the average results from their school rather than what they had gotten in their prelims and what their predicted grades were.
Hmm.
So, because I was coming from in a school with a lot of deprived kind of intake, my results were being given like terribly, like in comparison to like roughly the journey I'd been on and like the predicted grades and things. So it was a weird time where we were, everything's uncertain at that point in time. So we were just going, well, what's going to happen with my grades? Is this me kind of after all the work, I'd kind of finally learned how to actually lock in and get my head down because that was tough, obviously, like it is for everyone to kind of figure
Yeah,
out how to actually study and how to actually plan and get ready for exams. So that was just a weird time, like it was for everyone. But then like there was a couple losses in the family to COVID and things as well. So it was weird in that sense. Every obviously there was just turmoil left, right, and center everywhere you look, just all around the world. But I do think that we kind of made the most of it in some ways because I remember there are still fond memories of lockdowns because of where we lived. We weren't in a really congested area
hmm,
with lots and lots of people, so we're kind of out in the middle of nowhere. So we were able to go and walk. Uh, in the fields and just not meet anyone. There would be no one. So there wasn't that worry, because it was at the time where like even just going to the shop was like scary because you
yeah,
didn't know
yeah,
what could happen. So, we were kind of relieved for that in that aspect. And then like the likes of just getting up every morning and doing Joe Wicks. I don't know if you ever took part in Joe Wicks's like YouTube exercise things. I would do that with my mom and my brother and um yeah, and I remember like when lockdowns first came in, the weather this summer was brilliant as well. So I think it came just too early. The lockdowns were just a bit too early for me to kind of really think a lot about my music because that kind of started. I started really like putting my head into that a year or so later. But I
right.
did I did start thinking, why am I not putting music out? Why am I not recording my music? So I did start recording my music, but I had no idea how to do it. I had absolutely no knowledge on production. I'm not claiming I have a whole lot right now, but I certainly have a hell of a lot more than I did. I was using GarageBand and things and just like plugging in an acoustic guitar, not even miking it up, just plugging it in, DIing it into an interface. Um, and so that's why I don't like listening back to those songs now. Not because I think the songs are terrible. They aren't great. They're again, it just shows how far I've come in such a short space of time. But I think you mature. There's a few, that's between like 17 and 20 have like matured massively. Even 16 and 20, matured massively.
Yeah, totally.
Um, and so those songs are quite immature in a sense. And so I cringe when I hear them, and I hear like the fact I just I didn't know how to mix, I didn't know how to apply effects correctly, but I I imagine they're not going to be up there forever, and I've contemplated taking them down now, but then at the same time, I don't know if I should do that right this second because
No,
it's
well, it's
nice to
part of
see
the
the
journey, though,
progress.
isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it is. You're right. You're right.
It's part
Yeah,
of that's kind of the start of that, and that's what kind of made you who you are now. So,
yeah,
no, that I mean, as I said, like off mic, those couple of songs sound quite kind of in the Scottish folk scene.
yeah.
And as you progressed, obviously, like the following year, 2022, you brought out another two songs. The first one, "Pill," which vocally, it sounds to me, you can hear like kind of Ed Sheeran style vocals, and it's
Right. Okay. Cool.
it's went a bit more poppy.
Uh-huh.
So was that the route that you kind of wanted to go in? Were you into stuff like that?
Yeah. I mean, I I loved Ed Sheeran's like first three albums when they came out. So, that was uh was it was Plus, Multiply, and Divide, I think,
Divide.
were yeah,
Divide's the blue one, isn't it?
yeah. So that's the one with
That's kind
Castle on the
of
Hill.
that's where it sounded like for that kind of album, that Ed
Yeah.
Sheeran.
Yeah, no, I really did like those albums. I was really big into Ed Sheeran at that time. Not not as much a fan of like the direction his music's taken
Hmm.
since, but like I'm certainly not in that camp of people who weirdly seem to just like hate on him like for no reason. Um, he was definitely a big inspiration for me starting out. And I think that's actually why I went into record a lot of those songs because I knew I wasn't good at it. I knew I wasn't good at mixing and all that stuff, but I also remembered like the style of his songs at the beginning and how raw they were and how honest and kind of natural they were and how much they sounded as though they were that was him at the beginning of his career. Um, so definitely think Ed Sheeran was a part of it. I still again Pill and Rampant, if those are two we're talking about. Is it
Yeah,
Pill
yeah.
and Rampant? Yeah, those two I still I'm not a massive fan of listening back to on either because they were produced the production on them is really quite poor actually for them but the money that went into it
Yeah.
it's all relative, do you know what I mean, in
Hmm.
comparison to the other stuff. But the songs were getting better, and I was finally getting a chance more to experiment with building release plans and understanding how to release music properly, uh, how to promote music a little bit better, and just like experimented with music videos and found out that in this day and age, music videos really aren't quite the way forward for artists of my size. Um, I'm sure some artists my size will make it work because they'll be able to do it better than I was. But with the kind of resources I had, it wasn't something that I was going to continue doing. But I experimented more with social media, and I think yeah, everything you've said and other people have said to me as well, it's just part of the journey. It's all been a learning process, and I guess I'm still doing that now. I'm sure I am. I really hope that I sometimes I think about this. I hope that in 5, 10 years, I don't look back, or 5 years, let's just say. I hope in 5 years, I don't look back on Sucker Punch and go, oh, I wish I'd done things super differently. But naturally, that might be the case.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, that's a weird thought to be honest, because I think back to when
Yeah.
I was releasing Pill and Rampant. I don't know whether I was thinking then about, you know, 4 or 5 years on now, thinking about them and cringing. But anyway, that's probably not worth thinking about because otherwise I'll have an existential crisis. I, I, yeah, no, I think everything we discussed about those, they were definitely a sign of the times. Um, but it was definitely a step up from me sitting and producing my own stuff. Whilst the
Hmm.
production level isn't quite there yet at that point, it was certainly a step up, a level up.
And you were at gigging as well, a couple of festivals, down the Rabbit Hole and Vibration. You did with Corin. So
Mhm.
it was that. Is she like a singer songwriter as well?
Yeah, Corn is great. She's a singer-songwriter in her own right. I met her in Stirling through the toll booth when we were releasing Pill. Um, and then we did doing a rabbit hole together. So I joined her on drums. I did drums for her set. I did a rabbit hole, but then I had my own set. I did stuff. My dad stepped in and played guitar for me at that gig. It was a weird time. Cora and I had gotten together at that point, and um, we were kind of working out how to do stuff together. So when I did Vibrations Festival, we performed as a duo acoustically. Um, it was all a period of time of a lot of experimentation with like
Hmm.
how to kind of perform in different scenarios and different situations. Um, but yeah, I guess at that period of time, there's a lot of me and Corin performing together because we kind of just struck a chord and things were going really well between us. Um, and yeah, so it's a nice time to look back on, to be honest, because um, it was a really good period of time in my life. Yeah.
And you finished that year supporting Dove at PJ Malloy's. I've had Dove on the podcast.
Yeah.
That guy's got a cracking voice. There's kind of
Oh my
there
God,
doesn't
tell me
seem to
about it.
be anybody else with that voice.
Yeah, yeah,
So
he's
so how was that? Because PJ Malloy's a big venue as well.
yeah. So that was my first ever indoor gig with a band. That was so funny. I remember that was a brilliant night. That night actually, I like to think is kind of probably one of the most important nights of my career. At least in my early career, because that night I met the guys who now play in my band and probably will play in my band for
Brilliant.
yeah, for as far as I hope for forever, really, because since then, we've all developed together and uh, you know, gotten better as a group. But they're incredible musicians, and they are session musicians as well. They're learning their crafts and how to do this full time for a career, and they're not just learning. I mean, they're succeeding and they're excelling in everything they do, uh, and they're unbelievable guys. And since then, the kind of band, the family, the group is expanded, um, with vocalists, other vocalists, and with um, uh, I mean, I've had keys players in as well, uh, music directors and playback engineers, and gradually the kind of it really is kind of a family. It's grown, and we've spent time together, and we've not just become great bandmates, but we've just become like they're just my best mates now and things. So that's I met them at that gig. Dov is an unbelievable artist. He's got a fantastic voice, and we kind of all know each other through that group. The guys know Dov slightly better because they end up being involved in things that Dov's involved with a lot more.
Hmm.
Just with the fact that they're session musicians, they're in a lot of scenarios with him. But he's such a lovely guy. I don't have a single bad word to say about Dov. He's got some great tunes. We share similar circles, and whenever I'm on a bill with him, or if I'm ever out with Charlie or something from the band, and we see Dov on a bill, and we're going to go along to the gig, it's always a good night.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was a great one. I love PJ Malloy's as a venue. It's a really fun one, and I reckon I'll probably end up doing a headline there at some point before too long. There's been a lot of discussion about that, but I think at the moment I'm sticking just to planning something in the centre of Edinburgh, and then going out there at some point would be really fun because it's so close.
Hmm. So, as you say, kind of like that night was kind of integral to the band and meeting the band and all that. So, 2023, if you kind of look at that, that's when things got serious.
Hmm.
EP EP out in 2023.
Yeah,
Um, he played lots and lots of gigs. The Toll Booth in King Tut's in February.
yeah,
You done like a wee HMV tour. You done
yeah,
Drummond's in Aberdeen. Um, April you did Glasgow, Stirling, and Edinburgh. You done Sneaky Pete's, which Sneaky Pete's comes up quite a lot this year. Then you played
yes,
it in June. You played it in August. You
yeah,
did King Tut's Summer Nights.
yeah,
Back to Stirling. Then we had October Drift Support. You played Hug and Pint.
yeah.
What else have we got here? SWG Free Poetry Club. So
That was at
gigging,
the end. Yeah.
yeah. So plenty of gigs, plenty getting yourself out there, and all this supported by the EP,
Hmm.
which the last track on the EP, Self Esteem, ended up single of the week on BBC Radio Scotland as well. So
Yeah.
kind of talk us through a wee bit of the highlights of kind of that year because you can
Yeah.
see that it's getting serious then.
Yeah. I mean, when you talk about that, actually, you say it out loud, it was a crazy year actually, and um, that was just the rewards from a lot of hard work of just constantly reaching out to people and asking for opportunities. And the EP was fantastic. Recording that was so fun. Getting that out there, gave me a platform, I think, to get those opportunities to play live. And I mean, there's a certain balance now, I think, when you're playing live is to make sure not to play in the same place, same city too many times because you kind of become less of an attractive n band to go and watch perform. Because if you're in a city constantly, someone could go, well, he's here a lot. We'll go see him next time or whatever, you know. So I think that year I learned a lot from in that sense. But to actually talk about the opportunities, I mean, it was fantastic. You know, the tall booth at the start of the year, that was my debut headline sellout. You know, that was crazy. Sold out my debut headline show, and it was a hometown headline. So it's quite hard selling tickets to Sterling. But you know, I think my family pulled the stops out, but I also really worked so hard in promoting it. It was a really, really good gig. Um, and then. I mean, I'm going to jump to the October Drift one because that was back at PG Malloy's, and that was like my first proper, like really good support with a proper like national
Yeah.
band on a major headline UK tour. Um, and I'd met them, or was that before Belladrum? But I think I got that opportunity based on the fact that we were opening the stage for them at Belladrum late. No, we'd opened the stage for them at Belladrum in July that year. We'd sat down, had lunch with them and stuff, and then booked the October Drift support in Dunfermline later in the year. That's what it was.
Brilliant.
So yeah, that was really, really
Because
good. And then
it is so hard, obviously. I don't know how if you've listened to any podcasts back, but like obviously I
yeah,
manage a band and
yeah,
see trying to get that's what we're trying to do now is get like a support with somebody.
mhm,
So like because that's how you build up your fans as well.
yeah, exactly.
And it is so hard because you get so many other bands competing. I mean,
Yeah,
we went to see Pastel on Friday night and
nice.
was trying to get the band support for that gig. And
Uh-huh.
we missed it, but the two bands that support it were cracking. I think I'm getting one of them on the podcast soon.
Nice.
But
Yeah.
it's really hard because you're competing with everybody else, and there's
Yeah.
only so many support slots going.
No, I know. And I think that's why, I mean, you guys going along to the gig itself is one of the most important things you can do is showing your support for other bands. You know, there's not enough people that go to gigs. It's hard enough to find the funds, but when you have the time as well, balancing everything, it's hard to get to go to gigs, but going to gigs is so important. Just to, I mean, it gives you a fire in your belly to see other people doing what you want to do and get inspiration from what they're doing. Um, but yeah, I think I don't know how, I think I've almost gotten worse at it because my confidence has been knocked more and more as things have gotten better and as opportunities have gotten better. My confidence has been knocked more and more by the setbacks and also the cutthroat nature of the business, but not in a way that is going to affect me detrimentally because I think also at the same time I'm building a thicker skin and a stronger will to kind of fight through that.
Mm.
But it's definitely tricky because it's constant setbacks and constant, like it is constant. At least it has been for me. It has been persistent, relentless, and it's super hard to keep going sometimes. Um, but you have to, and then you have to take, you know, the little wins and kind of turn them into bigger opportunities than they really are. Make them as big and make every opportunity you have as big as possible. And that's what constant. I've just been trying to kind of practice what I preach in that sense. But you're right, it's really difficult. It's very, very difficult. But the likes of October Drift and their management were so supportive and just so lovely just to give me the chance. Just they took a chance and I think I think it was worth it for them. I remember speaking to the manager and he was really, really impressed and really chuffed and he stayed in touch and was asking lots of questions about things that I was up to. And you just got to try and take as much out of every opportunity that you can get.
Yeah,
And don't get too bummed out when sometimes you don't get anything out of something. That's just how it goes. But I mean, I know a lot of bands, a lot of friends who are in bands, a lot of artists, and there's a band in Edinburgh that I was just speaking to her the other day, Puppy Teeth, and just bumped into her at Stramash, and I mean, I'm sure it's all right to talk about, but she just mentioned that they'd had this one gig in London, and just this random gig in London, this A&R booker came up afterwards and just said that was amazing, like really, really, really good. Fancy a slot at Truckfest, and now they're playing the second main stage at Truckfest. Like just from one little gig in London.
Yeah,
And it happens more down, yeah, it happens more often, I think, down south, but also there's a lot more going on there, so it's probably trickier to get those opportunities in a way. So it's just putting on the best show you can, making as much out of every situation, trying to have as much fun as possible as well, because it's too easy to see everything as a grind and a slog, because it is.
yeah.
But
Well, I kind of see it like a roller coaster. You have like these big, massive highs, and then it can dip really quick,
yeah,
and then you can be at your lowest, and then something will pick you up again. Like
yeah,
obviously, like with the band, initially they were going in to record like a couple of songs. One of the boys was his old college tutor was going to let them come in and record stuff, use the facilities. This was in about May. I can mind
mhm,
it. It was a Scottish Cup final, and we were sitting watching it. I was sitting in the house watching it, and we got a text in saying the recordings were cancelled because of
oh,
the college strikes, or the colleges were on
right,
strike
yeah,
and couldn't get in. And absolutely deflated. I was deflated as well, or the band. And then it's kind of that way where you think, all right, we'll just pack it in. It's no for us. And
yeah,
then a couple of days later, we get the an email to play King Tut's. So
yeah,
it's kind of it's that yin and yang in it, and
yeah,
it's kind of that's just one of the pitfalls of being a musician.
exactly.
Um, like musically, obviously the EP that what I got for it now was that was kind of sounding like Snow Patrol, which I've seen kind of. You've covered a couple of Snow Patrol songs on your Instagram, TikTok.
Yeah.
So again, was Snow Patrol something? Was that an influence of yours? And can you see the kind of the similarities for what I've seen?
Um, they were never an inspiration. Never sorry, that sounds awful. I really like them. They were never a band that inspired me. I never listened to them much.
Hmm.
Um, but honestly, over the last 2 years, I mean, most gigs I do, and this is genuinely without having even listened to them until the last couple of months when their most recent album came out, which I think is unbelievable. And I've fallen in love with Snow Patrol, particularly that album. Um, I have covered I've covered chasing cars and things, like
Hmm.
but I just covered chasing cars mainly because I liked, it was a massive, massive song and I loved that song, but I hadn't really delved into their back catalog. But honestly, the number of times I get told that I've got a similar voice to Gary Lightbody, which is a massive compliment, of course, but I kind of never really, people would say, "Oh, you sound like Gary Lightbody," and I just go, "Oh, right, thank you," and never really knew what that meant, and then uh, when someone would mention, "Oh, have you ever listened to Snow Patrol?" and you say, "You sound like the singer from that," and I looked up Snow Patrol, and the singer is called Gary Lightbody. I'm like, "Oh, right, okay." Listened, and I kind of do see it. It's because I do, yeah, I get it, and it's a massive compliment because, as I said, after listening to their stuff a lot more, I really really like them, and I think they're fantastic live band. As a festival band, I'm I'm just, I think I'm getting some tickets to go see them at Transmit, which will be fun. I'd really want to go see them at the Hydro earlier this year, but I missed out on those tickets, so having to go to Transmit to see them. But yeah, I I definitely can see how there could be bits of Snow Patrol that's or like that EP could have elements of Snow Patrol in it. I don't think the EP sounds quite big enough. I think the drums are awesome. I don't
Hmm.
think there wasn't enough body in like the guitars and things like there is in a lot of Snow Patrol stuff. When it opens up, Snow Patrol's music has just got such fat guitars in it. It's just got a lot of depth and a lot of body to their stuff. Um, but in saying that, like I'm really still very proud of the EP, and I will be. That's what gives me a little bit of hope that I won't look back too negatively on Sucker Punch and things, is because it's been a while since I've released the EP, and again, whilst the actual promotion around it could have changed. Like the EP, I'm really proud of, and the music, the songs in it, I'm proud of, and two. So it was Coffee Shop Dates actually got the first single of the week, and then Self Esteem got the single of the week. So for a four-track EP to get two BBC Scotland single of the weeks, um,
Yeah, it's good going.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so you
Yeah,
should be proud of yourself. All this kind of self-doubt,
I
just
know.
keep them back and reminding yourself of that.
Thank you, man. I know. I'm terrible for it, and I think a lot of artists are, but yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. And so then last year, another two singles, Treat You Better, came out in May, and then This Town came out in June. Um, Gig wise, again, quite busy.
Mhm.
And he did King Tut's New Year's Revolution, which was a wee bit late for whatever reason.
Yeah, there was a
Um,
cancelled gig.
Tollbooth and the Caves in Edinburgh. Uh, Big show at Classic Grand. And lots of festivals. Sound of Iona Festival, Belladrum, which I believe is was on TV. I think you can still get it now, iPlayer, can we?
Yeah, well, I did an acoustic. Yeah, so we did an acoustic. Just before we did the garden stage. Um, so the actual band set isn't. I think there's bits and bobs on YouTube that people put up, but the actual acoustic set was the only bit that. But yeah, that was fun. That was really cool. So that's still an iPlayer, I think, until July.
Right. So we'll
Yeah.
get that. I'll post a wee link for that for people to have a
No,
look.
thank you.
Another couple of festivals, Edge Fest and Luna Fest, and you played again in Glasgow in audio.
Hmm.
So I plenty more gigs to coincide with the two releases. So again, how did you think that year went?
Last year was mega, right? And it made this year a tricky one to kind of build to better it really. And then I kind of had quite a few kind of industry setbacks and some kind of personal setbacks, which just made the start of this year a really tricky one. Um, just losses of relationships and things. That I'd been in for 2.5, 3 years or whatever, and
Yeah.
then um, kind of had a manager that let me down, and then two others that wanted to take me on, and I trusted, and then just vanished off the face of the earth, like with no reason, no rhyme or reason, nothing at all. And so I was just stuck in this like headspace of like, what is going on? And it just seems to be knockback after knockback after knockback. I mean, that's just a summary of like a couple of the things that had kind of gone wrong. So after an incredible year, it ended and put me in a really tricky position to start this year, which I'm proud of myself because I've really picked things up again and I've kind of grabbed the bull by the horns and this year's looking really good. But last year, as I said, it was unbelievable. Played some mega stages, Bellodrome, the Garden stage, that was the main stage for 18 years of Bellodrome. And then
Mhm.
the last 2 years they'd added on this even bigger stage, this massive, massive stage. But the Garden stage, that there's too many incredible bands that have played that to, name like Lewis Capaldi and um The Darkness and Nile Rodgers and Chic, and I just honestly the list is immense. So to
Yeah.
have played that stage was crazy, and it's such a beautiful arena, like to look out at as well from the stage. Just the way it's kind of like lined by hedges and things, and it's got like a amphitheater bit right at the back of the standing arena that kind of blocks up, so it just feels incredible to play to, and it's a good sound the way kind of things, the
Hmm.
way it's contained. Um, I mean, Edgefest, yeah, we were playing before McFly, so that was crazy. I mean, I met some of my most like loyal fans since met there. Um, that was really, really a beautiful experience. I love Edgefest. Playing at Iona, Iona was just such a great weekend because it was so fun for us. We went out and we just had a blast. It was a holiday for us more than anything else. We went to the journey there. You go on two ferries to get to Iona, and you have to drive the length of Mull. And it's such a gorgeous island. We just went away and you know, just we're on this beautiful island, riding around on the bikes around it, smoking weed and drinking, and just and then the obviously the festival itself that we played was it was so fun and we met some fantastic artists, but everyone's just contained in this little island. It was so
Yeah.
fun. I had an absolute blast. So it was I was just picking little bits of that year, but um the releases of Treat You Better in This Town, it gave me better material to perform live and or not better, but more material to perform live to build a show around and stuff that it garnered in quite a lot of fans as well, which meant that there was more songs in the set that people were kind of looking forward to and ready to sing. Um,
And the thing
yeah,
with those releases as well, as obviously like, as I've touched on with your other releases, that like that sounds like Snow Patrol, that sounds a bit like Ed Sheeran.
yeah.
These ones I can't place anything on them other than it sounds like Joe Goodall.
All right, okay. Well,
So
I think that's I'm going to definitely take that as a positive, I think. I think uh well, this town I wrote with Ross Layton from Father Son.
mhm.
I'd had like a pretty solid concept. I had the chorus melody and the lyrics and everything. But he came in, like, added a lot of instrumentation. I mean, it was also written, sorry, with Bruce Rental, who is an unbelievable producer and added so
Did
much to it.
Idlewild stuff, didn't it? Is that right?
Bruce, no, Idlewild, was that not
Trying to
Rod?
remember where I
That
know
was
the
Rod
name.
Jones, I think. Rod Jones. No, so Bruce has done like lots of, well, he's done pretty much all of Fatherston's stuff. He's
Right.
done Vicovi's stuff, uh, bits and bobs from Dead Pony. Um, I mean, he's got an unbelievably huge repertoire, like Luke LaVolpe. Uh, I'm pretty sure that I'm pretty sure that Idlewild was Rod Jones
Right.
because he's
Yeah.
based out of.
I know the name Bristol Tool for somewhere anyway, so
Yeah, he's a great producer. And I recommend him actually. Really, really couldn't recommend him enough if you're ever looking for stuff. And he's pretty fair when it comes to, the ins and outs of all the kind of
mhm.
administration stuff around recording and writing singles. But yeah, that the whole experience of writing this town, producing this town was so fun, and a really great learning experience. Uh, but I do think that that was the first time I'd gone in to a studio with like a producer that had done the caliber of
Yeah.
music I was wanting to put out. And I think that's possibly why it feels a little bit more like I had developed a sound. And I
Mhm.
think that sound changed. Bruce has got a sound. He's used to working on heavy stuff, and I'm not a heavy artist. I like to think that there's a rock element, but like when I'm talking heavy, I mean like heavy, heavy. He's worked on some heavy stuff. Um, so him kind of paring that back, I think even for himself was possibly a bit of a different experience. Um, so it was kind of just a little match made in heaven. I think it just we struck a chord and it worked really well, and we made some really cool tunes out of it. And I had taken in the inspiration, my love for the 1975, and kind of I just couldn't help but write these kind of like guitar hooks and things that were the 1975-esque,
Mhm.
kind of that kind of 80s pop sound, but with a modern pop rock foundation kind of thing. Um, yeah.
So what's the story then behind Sucker Punch then? Is who's produced that?
So Sucker Punch, I wanted to go into a writing session with a guy called Kyle Fumi. I'd really respected and loved his work for quite a long time. So I had reached out and we got something together, and then I was broken up with by my girlfriend, and we'd been together for a long time. So I was kind of going through like the initial stages of grief at the end of a relationship, which obviously develops and changes constantly. And
Mhm.
I was kind of like still in touch with her, and I'm still working out like what's a non-toxic amount to discuss about those things, like because obviously this is just the beginning of like the release campaign for this song, and I've talked to numerous people about like what's a fair amount to talk about. Um, because I still respect her so much, and she's an incredible artist, and I want to be kind of seen as someone that supports her and her ventures, not as someone that's there to kind of like be bitter about the way things ended.
Yeah,
But the song's just about, if you take away the personality behind what was going on, the song's just about the fear that there was more going on behind the breakup. Do you know what I mean? That there were
yeah,
other people involved, and it's that kind of confliction, confliction, is that a word? The conflicting, like the emotions of knowing I wasn't being a great boyfriend towards the end of the relationship, but also feeling the pain and the guttural sucker punch of
yeah.
having
A
someone
breakup.
seeing
Yeah,
someone else and seeing someone else at the end, that kind of thing, and seeing someone you love be with someone else, and just the loss of something beautiful, and something, the constant uh reliable nature of a relationship for such a long time. So yeah, it was just that heartbreak, but it was that initial, I was writing it in that initial period, and it was all about like the jealousy and the that there's this thing now in this modern day and age where the social media like is like this um insight into everything that someone is doing,
hmm,
and it's you can talk about the ins and outs of it, and that's not something that I have any sort of like grounds to talk about. But when it comes to like a breakup, it's so toxic because you can kind of like stalk someone, if you know what I mean. And the reason I wrote the song, some of the lyrics kind of allude to this like embarrassment of the urges to check up what's she doing, who's she seeing, all that kind of stuff.
yeah. I
But
mean,
also,
it's all a kind of it's a natural thing as well. Like
yeah,
this, and
yeah,
it's kind of again, it's probably this song is what needed to happen to kind of get you through, and
yeah,
you know what I mean.
yeah,
So, and I'm pretty sure if she's listened to it, if she's heard it, she'll understand. If you kind of look at Fleetwood Mac and some of the stuff that they done, you know what I mean, and the troubles that they all went through,
yeah.
and kind of they're still able to kind of get on there. So,
Yeah, yeah. No, I think so. And I think what I like about Sucker Punch is it's not like an angry song. It's got this like fluctuating emotion, like emotional roller coaster within it, because it's like I remember being in the studio. So we wrote this like so soon after this happened. It wasn't, it was booked way in advance, and I went in and I had this idea for the song, and this like the hook. I had the in my head, and like the bass line. I've had the bass line before anything else. It's the first time I've ever had a bass line before anything else of a song. And we went in, and I had the lyrics and the hook and the chorus, and gradually the song just started falling out of me, and we just tracked it and recorded it there and then. And the idea was that we would then go and record it better afterwards, but there was no need for that because it's kind of the best version of it that it will ever be. I think
mhm,
I actually have fallen in love with this song so much. I can't wait to kind of get back out and start playing it live, um and the little teaser I put out, people fell in love with it, and the few fans that kind of like have been asking me on like daily basis to release it. I'm really excited to kind of give that to them, and I think the song deserves more than any other song I've ever released. I think it deserves, some real good traction, because I think it deals with some like really taboo subjects that aren't really talked about much, and it does it in a nonchalant way, like the kind of stigma of that like post breakup stalking kind of thing, which is so unhealthy, but it's so unhealthy that people just tell you just shouldn't ever do it. But I think it's such a process, and I think you almost have to just ride it out and go through that to understand why you shouldn't be doing it, and
mhm.
why it's unhealthy, and why it's self-sabotage. And I think that the song deals with that in a really flippant, nonchalant way. And then in the bridge, it's got this really heartfelt, almost like I remember almost crying when I was singing those lines of like, "Tell me that you need me. You know, would you trust the lust? Because the future is just believing." And just feeling like it almost feels like a voicemail, like a call to her,
Yeah.
just like begging. And then it goes back into the like like the kind of nonchalant thing. So I really love it. I really love the song. I'm not gonna have any difficulties like hyping it up to press this time. Hello there. Who's this?
Ah, this is my wee van.
Oh,
Rooster.
hello. Hello, dude.
He looked a wee
Gorgeous.
bit sad himself with the losing his brother. But,
Oh, I know it's
but
nothing worse, really.
um,
Um,
so where were we?
No,
So
so I think yeah, I just rounded off really by just saying that it's I really I love the kind of the whole concept behind the song, which is just it wasn't something I had to think about. It was just what became of it. But the way that it became what it is and how little we've kind of touched it up since we were just in the studio for those 2 days just writing this song. And I think it's the best version of itself, the most genuine version, because if we try to kind of re-record vocals and things in a new situation, it wouldn't have the same emotion that it did then. So it will maybe come to life even more live. I don't know, but
mm,
um, I'm very proud of it. I am proud of it, and I'm proud that I managed to do that.
yeah, it's a brilliant listen. I've Aidan sent me a couple of weeks ago when we first started talking, and
Yeah.
I've listened to it quite a few times, and I am mega impressed. And
Oh,
that's
thank you.
out March the 28th, you said, which will be
Yeah.
3 weeks on Friday.
Yeah.
So I'll be posting stuff for that, and
Oh,
that
thank
is
you.
followed up with April. You support the banter feast at McKill's.
Yeah.
So I've had Dale Watson, the bass player for Banter Feast, on the podcast very early on.
Cool.
I know him for he stays pretty close. So
All right. Cool.
that'll be a good one. And then
Yeah.
you get the Eves, the Liquid Rooms, you get that support, and then way into October you get our Amplified Festival,
Yeah. Yeah.
which I think it's all fully booked because I tried to get the band on that as well, but Aidan says that
Is that one fully
he's
booked? Is it?
inundated. But I think he's going to sort us some support. He's hoped to get us for one of the bands. So
Yeah.
he,
Oh, that'd be mega.
so
Yeah.
that's looking like a kind of, you get 3 gigs already booked.
Yeah.
What other plans have you got for this
So
year coming up?
there's a lot kind of still being talked about, kind of bigger things. I had a few kind of cool offers through that just didn't we never managed to quite get over the line. But I think because it had such a little, such a this period of time out, which wasn't really something I planned. It was just something that came about just being away from it.
Hmm.
But because of that, I think at this stage of my career, uh, I'd gotten to somewhere really cool, really exciting, where I was getting fantastic opportunities, but it's such a futile point where, like, if you stop for a second, people just forget who you are, and the industry forgets who you are, and they leave you behind because everyone else is carrying on. So I am so excited to get Sucker Punch out because I've got other singles that are ready to kind of go after that.
Hmm.
And I'm kind of ready to just steamroll and, like you said, kind of ride this roller coaster and hopefully get back on a fucking up bit because it's been too long. I tell you what, this is a boring ass roller coaster right now. It's been sat on the fucking ground for way too long. And yeah, I'm just excited to kind of get things moving again. But these gigs will be really good fun. The Banter Feast will be a really nice way of just getting back into Glasgow. I like I feel very, very, very lucky to have been kind of inundated with offers after I kind of reached out to promoters and friends that I knew that were able to get me gigs and saying, look, I'm back at it now. And I've been very, very lucky. And I'm so grateful that there is this community around me of people that trust me, my music, and have seen us live and know that we put on a good show and trust us with supports. So The Bat Northeast will be really good fun. The Eves is going to be great because that's at the Liquid Rooms, which is such a cool venue. That's just going to be acoustic. I'm just supporting acoustically, but that'll be nice to get a slightly different uh, kind of perspective on the songs, the new tracks as well. I'm
Hmm.
doing another acoustic thing in April, on the 12th of April in Newcastle, just at an acoustic festival called United by musicians. So I'm going to put a post up about that later on. Um, and there's just a couple festivals which I might be able to get over the line as well. Um, but it'd be dangerous. I'll mention them to you afterwards because I've had my emails from people saying that I'm to expect an offer through, but then you're going, really? I haven't
Yeah.
received an offer yet. Um, but there's a couple of the things. There's three festivals that are pretty much doing the same bloody like edging me. Just am I gonna get something?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, but that's just the way it goes. Like if this year ends up being slightly lacking in the festival region, there's a number of some decent supports at the end of the year that are looking I'm looking at. But actually, I'm most excited because I've got we're just booking a headline tour as well for the end of the year as well. So,
Brilliant. I'll make sure I'm at that.
oh, thank you, man. Thank you. I'm sure we'll be
Um,
able to get you onto Alloa as well. That's a should be a good one because I'm sure if it's booked up this year, I reckon you'll be able to do it next year.
yeah, yeah. What he's doing? It looks really good, and
Yeah.
it's something else to add to the kind of calendar.
Yeah, absolutely. It'd be really exciting. I'm really hoping it goes well because, for Aiden, because he's an incredible young prospect in the music industry trying to make things happen. And there's a lot to be admired for someone of his age, like trying to really just throw 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 caution to the wind and just go
Yeah,
for it.
yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, even just up in that region, you've got yourself, you get Kieran Fisher, Tonto, you get Vida up there, so there's plenty of kind of talent there to be
Mm,
supplemented by other people coming in.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
sky's the limit.
Let's hope,
Um,
eh?
Obviously, the last bit of the podcast called Time for Heroes. And so I
Yeah,
asked my guest to pick four heroes to come for dinner, dead or alive, from whatever aspect to life you want. Um, why are your heroes and what would you cook for them as well?
yeah. Okay.
A tough one, that.
It is a tough one. I mean,
It's even
because
tougher. I had one guy that tried to kind of pin it back on me, the question, and I was stumped.
well, I won't do that. I won't. It's do you know what? It's tough. I mean, I know I. It's tough because I could so easily just say every member of 1975, but I'm not going to do that. So what I'm going to do is Matty Healy is a performance genius. The entire band are, and I. I think whenever I talk about the 1975, I always try and be careful to mention that I admire them all equally because of the like this the everything about the journey of that band is interesting and and I can learn a lot from it and I've like followed them for 10, 12 years now, you know and even that's been a roller coaster. So what should I do? Should I tell you the people first and then talk about what I'm going to make them?
Yeah, whatever you want, but I mean, I'll let you have the full band from 1975. You can have them as one
Oh,
song.
class. All right, thank you. Well, that'll be awesome because I think that make it easier having the conversations with them. I've been really, really, really lucky because even in the short space of time that I've been doing things, I've had the opportunity to meet some kind of crazy artists and hang out with some awesome people who I'd say, if they're not my heroes, are certainly massive inspirations. Like I got to spend I mean, so we're hanging out with Jake Bugg for a couple festivals last year at Belladrum and Edgefest, and kind of got a really good relationship with them and their management and the guys in the band. And so they all follow me on Instagram now, and we communicate every now and then. Over, I mean, I think they're coming to play Transmit in
July.
July, so
Yeah.
we'll go along and meet them there again. And so when they did the Scottish leg of their tour, we hung out with them then, and uh, I just I loved that so much because you're just getting they're the loveliest, most down to earth people, and I did my best not to seem like I was too enthused with the situation, but I was wanting to ask as much as I could just about the journey and about everything, the lifestyle of living on tour and they're such lovely guys. They were open to talking about it all and sharing ideas and sharing their stories. And so maybe I was gonna say I would take Jake Bug, but then again, it's the whole fucking package again. So I think I'm lucky enough to.
We'll go 19. Oh, we'll go 1975 full lot, and we'll go Jake Bug and the full lot for there.
Okay, just
I'm
but
not
I
want you
mean,
upsetting anybody. And just remember though, 1975 and Jake Bug, if you're listening, if there's any support slots coming up,
yeah,
Joe Goodall's first dibs on them.
exactly. Thank you, man. Absolutely. Um, but you know what I think I'd do though is I like to think I'm almost at the stage where Jake Bug would just invite me over for dinner anyway. I'm winking to anyone that's only listening. I'm winking. Maybe not quite there yet, but if I mean, I've I would have to have David Byrne from the Talking Heads.
Hmm.
Uh, I just think his mind would be, I mean, that would be, it probably wouldn't end up getting much chance to talk to anyone else, to be honest, because David Byrne would just be like consuming all of my time because I think he could talk for forever and he's such a genius. Not that anyone else at this table isn't, but like he's just a fucking genius. So I guess I'm choosing like artists that, uh, I'm choosing artists with an incredible, uh, notion for performance as well as songwriting, I think.
Hmm.
Because there's so many artists that I love for their songs and their songwriting style, but because of the direction I'm going and wanting to kind of create a whole package, some people don't need to do that because their songs are just that incredible. They don't need to build around it. But I that's just not who I am. I just love the performance aspect so much, far too much. And then just because his books are sat next to me, I think it would create the most bizarre dynamic to have Stephen King at that table.
Right.
Uh, because I think when you're an artist, reading is so incredibly important, and I struggle so much to get my head around it and just sit down and read. It's
Yeah.
so tricky. But what am I trying to say? I think Stephen King, the simplicity of his books, but the fantastic storylines and the excitement and the thriller nature of the majority of his stories, I think gave me a love for reading that I don't think I was finding from anyone else.
Hmm.
And through his books, through Stephen King, has given me a love for not a love. Again, I still struggle to kind of commit to reading books, but it's certainly given it, kept the desire to read alive and the understanding of reading and the enjoyment that can be found with reading. So I think having Stephen King, I've watched interviews with Stephen King, and I think he seems like a really interesting guy. Um, I think he'd be really good fun. I think he's also big into his tunes, big into his music. Um, and so I think that could be quite a fun table. And as I was saying, as I've been lucky enough to meet Jake Bugg and his band already, and I think I'll get to kind of keep that relationship going. Hopefully, what I'll do is I'll swap that band out for Gary Oldman. Have you ever watched Slow Horses?
No, I haven't.
Have you heard of it?
No.
It's fantastic. It's like this TV show I'm watching right now in my flat. Um, and this is such a bizarre mix of people, but I was just thinking. I was thinking I would kind of do something that was like a timestamp of where I am right now and what I'm up to. These people. Maybe I'll do this again in a couple years' time, and I can my table will be completely different. But I also feel like Gary Oldman would just appreciate any food. At least the characters he plays, he's like he appreciates food as much. I'm thinking, I think he would absolutely love it. Do you know who Gary Oldman is? The
He
actor.
was in Harry Potter, was he not? Was he?
Oh, do you know what? I actually don't know much else about. It wouldn't surprise me.
Right, yeah, I'm no big on films. I watch certain films, but the missus is in. I'm pretty sure he was in Harry Potter. I hope he was because I'll make myself look like a dick if he wasn't.
Well, it's probably worse. I don't even know if he was, and I'm choosing to have him at the table. But he's fantastic in Slow Horses. It's a TV show. It's about like MI5 agents that get retired because they've fucked up, or they are injured, or they have had a breakdown or something, and they can't continue to be in the main force. But because the confidential things they know, they're not allowed to be like fully retired, so they're put into Slough House, which is like the place for the reprobates, it's like of the MI5 community. And so it's Gary Oldman plays this like sluggish, rank, disgusting, potty mouth character, um, who you actually really love. Which is, I just think it's he plays this like really cool character, and you get, you know, when you like get so into a TV show that like you want to meet the people
Yeah,
in the show, and because you start to imagine that if you met them, they would be the character.
yeah.
Uh, you know,
I get that all the time.
yeah. But I think
I lived my life a few years back as if I was in The Sopranos.
nice. Okay.
Yeah.
If you like The Sopranos, I mean, did you watch Breaking Bad?
I didn't. I couldn't get into it. I watched the first. Everybody says if you get by the first season, but
Yeah.
I just found it so slow going. But I mean, I know I should love all the things as well because
I think you're gonna have to give that one another go at some point. I mean, if you're in The Sopranos, into The Sopranos, so that's a class show as well. I'm trying to remember. It's been such a yeah. Does it pick up much more after the first season? Yeah, well, yeah, of course it does. But I'm trying to think. I didn't remember the first season being particularly slow, but it must. It maybe was. Um,
I mean, I think quite a few people have told me that just get by the first season and you'll get into it. But I mean, I can be quite petty with things. There's a guy at work told me about The Wire, and
yeah.
he tried to force The Wire onto me. He gave me the box set, but the guy was a total prick
Oh,
because he gave me it and he tried to force it on me.
yeah.
I've never watched it, and apparently it's like critically acclaimed. It's
Right. I've never seen it, so I can't
it's
say, but
bad. So I've just kind of I've never went near it because of that instant. But
yeah. But you know where I'm coming from with like the art with the actor thing, where it's like I get quite obsessed with like I would be far more because with musicians I've never really been like particularly starstruck when I met, as I said, I met some really cool people.
Mhm.
Like some of the bands, like my favorite bands, I've even had the opportunity to meet, which is awesome. If I met Matty Healy, George Daniel, the guys at 1975, I think I'd struggle a bit more. I think I'd probably be like, "Holy shit! Like you guys have shaped my concept of performance." But uh, I tell you what, definitely meeting like my favorite actors, I think I'd probably be more likely to get a bit more like starstruck out of it.
Mhm.
But Gary Oldman would definitely, I think that'd be a fun one to have at the table. Gary Oldman and Stephen King, I reckon that'd be a cool little mix. And then having 1975 and David Byrne from Talking Heads. I have a slight worry that the table would separate into being like this. Stephen King sat with Gary Oldman having a little chat, and then 1975 and David Byrne off to the other side. I'd have to try and like bring the table together, but maybe I
Yeah.
could do that with food.
And that, like you touched on performance. So obviously, as I said, I was at Pastel on Friday, and
Yeah.
the support band. I'm going to just give him a shout out because I messaged the boy last night. Last Sober Days they were called, and that's what I messaged him. I said I couldn't believe how intense the performance was. It's like
Yeah,
he had everybody in the room, kind of, he captured everybody in the room. And
that's
the
amazing.
sound that I got for it, I say he was, and it's funny you say Jake Bugg, um, a mixture of Jake Bugg, the Snuts, and LCD sound system. But
Oh
I don't
wow.
know how you could mix them, but it was like, you know, the way LCD sound system kind of build up the songs.
Yeah,
That's kind of how the songs went. It kind of was like a gradual build up,
cool.
where a Jake Bug sound and voice, with the Snuts kind of performance style. That's how I
That's
described it to him, and he seemed to like that anyway. So,
I bet that's a hell of a compliment. That's awesome. Yeah. I've never. What did you say their name? I'm just gonna take it down my phone because I've never heard of them.
Last Sober Days they were called. All one word, I think it is.
Right. Last sober days.
Yeah. We've not got
Uh,
much out. I think I got one EP out on Spotify,
right.
but aye, really good.
Well, I've given them a follow on Instagram, so I'll have to check their stuff out. But yeah, that's sick. Oh, they've done a. It looks like they've done a UK tour. Oh no, they maybe joined. Anyway, this isn't very pod worthy
Yeah,
information, but yeah, no, that's sick. I'll give them I'll check them out. That's one of the coolest things about just going to as much live music as you can is like not only you get to see cool artists, but like your favorite cool artists, but you get to discover like the people that they like as well and have on supporting them.
yeah,
Because generally you'll end up discovering people you like if you're going to see an artist you already like.
yeah. I mean, I love it. You need to go. You need to go to these gigs early and go and see the support and all that, because at some point the people that you're going to see, that you're buying tickets for, they started off like that.
Yeah, 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 exactly. Absolutely.
Uh, and what about these guests then? What are you cooking them?
Uh, starter with bruschetta. Uh, starter or bruschetta, sorry, I should say. You
Hmm.
know, it's the most simple thing on earth to make, and it's one of my favorite things to eat. It's just so simple. I'm not vegan or veggie or anything, but I just love bruschetta so much because an absolute fucking fiend for garlic. I just think it's the best thing on earth. I don't think I don't think there's anything better than garlic, really. I would probably like in order like the things I would save from my house, it would go like, dog, family, garlic, guitars. Um, or no, maybe I'd leave the garlic in the house because it'd make a great smell, some roasted garlic. But like I love it so much. Um, and so bruschetta is pretty heavy on the garlic, or at least I make it. And I always get there's this bread that you can get, like this crust and malika, like it's like yellow, and when you put it in the toaster, it goes so crunchy and crispy. But it's not a sourdough, so it's not got the sour flavor, which I don't mind. I don't mind sourdough, but I think with bruschetta, it's nicer to have this. Anyway, I'm actually deep in this way too much, but it's so good, and it's easy to make. So nice olive oily, spicy bruschetta.
Hmm.
And then fuck it, maybe we just go down a tapas route. It's been a while since I've been to Spain, and I absolutely that's like I mean I love a good Indian meal. Um, like there's so many great Indian restaurants in Edinburgh and as there are in Glasgow and all over. But since we started with bruschetta, it'd be weird to go to a curry next. So how about like I get like patatas bravas.
Hmm.
God, I feel like a pretentious prick going on about this, but I'm just thinking of all the things I've had when I was in Spain. Like gambas apilpo, so like, well, patatas bravas is like potatoes, in like
Yeah.
tomatoey, spicy potato, tomatoey stuff, and then yeah, gambas apilpo, so like prawns in oil, olive oil, like hot olive oil and garlic and chili, and then. Yeah, just like a ton of different bits and bobs out of tapas. So like, I mean, I love. Have you ever had like good calamari?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, lovely. I love my seafood, so I'm right into
same.
the prawns and the calamari. Aye, that's
Yeah, yeah. It's like a good calamari when you're abroad and they make it fresh, not like the frozen. not to shit on that stuff, but sometimes when you get it frozen over here, or like go to the pub, I mean, all the Belhaven pubs, they seem to sell it, and it's not bad. You know, they still give you a bit of like lemon and stuff over it, but the fresh stuff, and you know it's just been caught pretty freshly. Oh, that's good. So yeah, a nice bit of seafood, and then what else would you? I mean, I always just love this getting the house salads like when you're
Hmm.
away. There's always they chuck in the odd bits of like random stuff. They put in tuna in there, and they'll put in a bit of like boiled egg, stuff you're not quite expect, but it's so good. Um, if it's got garlic in it, it's good. If it's got olive oil in it, it's good. Um, and then just some like crunchy bread with some balsamic vinegar and olive oil and some nice cheese. Just a picky thing, just a picky tapas dinner, I think, because
Yeah,
I
that sounds amazing.
yeah, I don't want people stuffing their faces with like roast dinners as much as that would be amazing. You know, I want to be able to talk to people, and if I'm trying to ask the deepest questions about David Byrne's like uh psychology behind like production and performance, and he's just like trying to speak through a mouthful of roast potatoes, it's not going to quite work. But if he's like picking in bits and bobs, that might be easier. Uh, and I'm now mega hungry, and I really, really want to go to Spain and get some tapas now. Might just have to
Yeah.
eat a couple of raw garlic cloves to keep me going.
Yeah, I mean, it does, man. That sounds amazing. I might come in as well for that.
Oh yeah, you were going to be there from the get-go. You were facilitating this whole thing. You had to be there.
Brilliant. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you, Joe.
Oh, same here.
Good
Thank you
luck for
very
the
much.
Sucker Punch out again. I'll reiterate March the 28th,
Yeah,
3 weeks on Friday, and gigs coming up, Banter Feasts,
yeah,
first up at McCool's, which is a cracking venue as well. Um,
yeah.
aye, but all the best and thanks for coming on.
No, thank you so much for having me. Much appreciated.
Brilliant, thank you. I hope you all enjoyed this episode of Time for Heroes podcast. If you would like to get in touch, the best way is on the Facebook page, Time for Heroes Podcast, or on Instagram at Time for Heroes Podcast, or Twitter at Time for Heroes P1, or drop me an email at timeforheroespod at gmail.com. You'll find Time for Heroes on all podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple, Google, and Amazon. Please leave a review where you can, share with others, and more importantly, enjoy. Chance